Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Dreams, Memes, and Veggie Supremes.
Welcome.
I still can't do a straight face when I say that name. I mean, we're on episode 8 now.
Episode 8.
And I can't even do a straight face.
Part 2 of the fitness and nutrition tips for beginners.
Yeah, and even broader than fitness and nutrition, health and
general
psychology, and So we kind of dive into it all. So yeah, but obviously before we get into part 2, we're going to rate the pizza.
Dive into the pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza time.
This looks whack.
So what's this one, Benji? Last week we had the meat lovers. What's this one?
This is the BBQ Chick'n that they've made for us. So this is their upon their recommendation. Jack really wanted a meat lovers last time. So
we asked them to recommend one this time.
Yeah, this is what they came up with.
Seem to have delivered.
This looks crazy. So let's get into this.
Let's jump in.
Let's tuck into it.
So Benji, what are your thoughts on that one?
This is a tough one. For me, that one was better than the meat lovers.
Yeah.
But I gave that one a 9. Yet again, there's same cheese, right? So across the board, the cheese isn't going to be that good. It's just a type of cheese. I'm not sure if it's the way they cooked it, but I think it's cheese. It's good, but it's not perfect. But the cheesy crust was insane.
Yeah. The cheesy
Loved
crust.
it. Yeah, loved the simple flavours as well. Just like the combination of the chicken, the barbecue sauce, just like classic. So I need to put it higher, but if I put it as a 9.5, which I'm leaning towards, not sure if that seems fair. And there wasn't enough chicken on there as well.
Yeah.
But I think everything else boosted it so far up that it's a 9.5 for me, which is
unprecedented.
Which is crazy, but only other one that got 9.5 for me, that's tied now, I think, with one of these spots.
Did the Euros one get a 9.5? I feel like
From
I got a 9.
I'm not sure, actually.
9.5 from me.
9.5, I really, really like that one. It's really yummy.
Nice. I think I'd probably still give that one a 9, personally. Because I think that while the cheese does knock it down a point, I think the cheesy crust, adds pretty much a point back on. But then the chicken, it's not quite enough of it. And I think that the whole sauce and base and all the mixture of stuff on the onion and all that stuff is really good. But I think the chicken actually is a bit of a weaker point than those things, for me personally. So I would probably give that one a 9 as well.
Yeah, 9.
As well as the one from last week.
Marion Dial-a-Pizza, you are killing it.
Thanks, guys.
Thumbs up.
Without further ado, we'll hop into part 2 of our general fitness, health, nutrition tips for beginners.
Yep, so we're very much just going to be carrying on from the same... we did 5 minutes last time, and an AMA. So this time we'll be doing... 5
We'll
minutes,
be doing
5 tips.
Five main tips today, and then we'll be doing some little quick fire tips at the end.
Because we only got 1 AMA, and that was in the last one. So quick fire tips at the end of this one. Right, let's go hop into it. Random high five. Number 6.
Number 6, which is thoroughly planning out your goals.
Thoroughly planning out your goals. Now, this is a really important one.
Key to success.
Even people at intermediate level and advanced level don't even focus on this enough. So this isn't just a beginner newbie problem. This is a problem across the whole board.
Yeah.
People don't know why they're training and what they're training towards, what are realistic goals. There's so much that's wrapped into just this one tip here. So, I mean, we'll try and run through it as quick as we can, really, because there's so much there. The first one for me is realistic goals and realistic goal setting. This kind of ties into the podcast that we've done on digital health. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. Pretty much the digital landscape right now and how it's got its fingers in health is pretty much really altered the perception of people and what a realistic goal is. Most of the people that look amazing have a lot of the time unobtainable bodies naturally. It's most of the time through steroids or combination of steroids and good genetics.
Plastic surgery,
yeah, that too, yeah. Very rarely will it just be they're trained really hard. Even then, they might have just really good genetics too.
Well, even if they have been taking those things, then they would have still likely trained very hard. In the case of steroids, they would have trained harder than you probably can.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the benefits. But
yeah.
The point still stands that it's not achievable, especially if they're not honest about the use of those substances or touching up via plastic surgery and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you can take steroids, sit on the couch and build muscle though. You can do that.
Yeah, I know you can.
Yeah. Make sure you can kind of cut through the bullshit pretty much and set a realistic goal. Follow someone who's transparent. Definitely not saying don't follow someone you admire and admire their body. It can definitely be a motivating thing, but don't let it consume you and set unrealistic goals. Pretty much that's the moral of the story there with the digital health thing.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I would probably say for setting goals and setting an effective goal, most of all, is to make it what's called a SMART goal, which I won't go into in too much detail, but it essentially breaks each goal into subcomponents. In order to be a SMART goal, it's an acronym. It has to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, which I won't go into in too much depth because we'd be here for ages.
Yeah.
But all you really need to do is just quickly give it a quick Google, see all of those components, write down your main goal, and then make sure that your main goal goes into all of those criteria. And then you've got yourself a goal that with a time frame that you know you can achieve, that I just hit the mic, that you know you can achieve, and you know exactly how to measure it when you get there.
It's a fantastic way of breaking it down. I think that pretty much answers the question, actually. I think you've done a really good job there.
Thank you. I
totally
should
forgot.
not let you talk first.
No,
that would have been done by now.
Because I spoke about one component of a SMART goal just then. SMART goal is actually, I don't know why, it just totally lost my mind then. You use it more than me. I definitely use it.
I use it with everyone.
You use it with all your personal training clients. It's a really good way of really getting every encompassing aspect of a goal.
Yeah.
One thing, and I think it addresses this in the SMART goal, but it's just kind of knowing, what's S again? Suitable? Specific. Okay.
There are different versions of it. I think in one version it is suitable.
Yeah.
The one I use is specific just because it's especially useful for a health goal.
Yeah,
so you can say a specific body weight that you'd be aiming for, a specific
I want to lose this much weight
that you want to, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, suitable can be used as well.
Yeah, because I was going to say that's one component that I would almost add in there, is you need to know, you need to have a pretty good objective view of where you're at. You need to know if you are overweight. You need to know if you are underweight. You need to know if you're a normal weight. And you need to know where to go from there.
Yeah.
Because some people might be underweight and think that they need to do a cut first.
Yeah.
Before.
And that's where achievable comes in. That's the main one where achievable comes in. Because if someone's underweight and they want to lose 10 kilos,
I guess
I would classify that as not achievable for that person.
Yeah.
Unless they're going. It might be physically achievable, but it certainly wouldn't be healthily achievable.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is where that comes under for health.
Yeah. Yeah, it does come under the A, doesn't it? Well, there you go. SMART goal. Just use SMART goal.
Tip number 7.
7.
Don't follow an advanced plan if you're just beginning.
Yeah.
So my example that I've written down for this one is if you start with a 6-day per week traditional bro split, then you're not really going to be maximizing the potential that you have as a beginner. What I'd recommend doing instead would be, say, a 2 or 3 day. I think we went over this in the last podcast, but I'd recommend doing maybe a 2 or 3 day, more full body focused, compound exercise focused split. Because the former example is much more focused for more advanced people.
Yeah.
And you'll normally get that kind of advice from someone who is themselves quite advanced, especially if you're like, oh, this is the program he uses. And it might work really well for him because he's already advanced and he's just working on maybe touching up the peaks of his biceps or something like that.
Yeah, fine-tuning, ridiculous sculpting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just maybe increasing a bit of symmetry on his deltoids, something like that. Whereas what you want to do is probably put on muscle in those areas rather than just sculpting them very slowly. Right.
Just get your foundation down.
So instead of doing, say side lateral raises to equal out your shoulders, you want to be doing maybe overhead press to build some muscle there first.
Yeah, that's right.
And then once you're a little bit more advanced, you can start thinking more about that kind of stuff. But definitely not straight up the bat. Straight off the bat, sorry. Yeah.
No, definitely. That connects with a lot of other topics we've touched on in previous podcasts and even the last podcasts that we did. It's like tip number 4 in this podcast, last podcast, kind of similar to that. don't get caught up in the specifics.
Yeah, focus instead on the general principle, which is probably building strength first up throughout most of your body.
Yeah.
And then muscle will follow that. And then from there, you can start working on more narrow, really focused stuff.
That's right. This is sort of applicable to nutrition as well.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's kind of applicable. I mean, I wouldn't say there's an advanced nutrition program, so to speak. It's more not worrying about things like micronutrients, worrying if you're hitting all of your micronutrients right off the bat, or like trying to get your supplements on point, or all of that kind of thing. More so like focusing on, this is the calories that I want to hit, this is the protein I want to hit. That would actually be a nice natural progression, I would see. Focus on getting enough food in that's high in protein. Then the natural progression would be start tracking calories and protein. Then perhaps start tracking all of your macros and energy, and then just take a step each time.
I would just probably say there quickly about the whole issue with obsessively tracking macros and calories. Just only I would say, I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, but I think you probably would. Only really worry about tracking your calories and your macros if it's something that is healthy for you, more or less. If you're going to become obsessed with that, probably don't do it. Try and what's the word I'm looking for? Is it intuitive eating?
Yeah,
is that
intuitive eating.
Yeah, which is more or less.
Which is the first step that I gave. Yeah, definitely. But I wouldn't. Yeah, Jack, amazing point, because
thank you.
all of the current literature, you cannot deny that weight loss apps like MyFitnessPal and all them, you cannot deny that they work, because they do. The current scientific literature is all there to back them up.
Yeah.
However, with people who have EDs, eating disorders, or even past EDs, it's not useful for. It's
or just
actually
obsessive tendencies.
Yeah,
which can lead to eating disorders.
Yeah, anything along those lines.
Or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, if you've got anything along those lines, just be sensible, and I think everyone will know within themselves. I think even with just the tiniest bit of self-awareness, that you'll know if you're suit for following, tracking calories or macronutrients or whatever in an app. If you aren't, it's not the end of the world. You can still hit your goals absolutely fine. Just do it in a healthier way that's being more mindful of your mental health and your mental state, and just do that with intuitive eating.
Yeah.
You can definitely find a lot of things about intuitive eating on our page and other pages. There's other pages out there. There's a lot of content out there. But if you think about whole foods and sticking with whole foods as the main proponent of your diet, I think you're gonna do great.
Yep. So just one thing I'd like to add just before we move on to the next one would be with the nutrition example again. I think an example would be someone who's new hopping on, say, a bodybuilder's diet, a competitive bodybuilder's diet, which you do see quite often, is people following. Let's say you start at the gym, you're a little bit overweight, maybe not too much, but you want to lose a little bit of body fat. You want to be shredded.
Yeah, that's right.
You hop straight onto someone who's got a public meal plan, who's prepping for a bodybuilding meet.
Yeah.
You see people do that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's obviously not the best thing for, especially if you start following it perfectly. You start doing water cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Other than being a funny BuzzFeed video on going on the rocks diet for like a week, it's not going to be a good thing. Pretty much eating 200 grams of protein for you following a bodybuilder's program is not going to be good for you. A 50 kilo dude who only needs like 100 grams of protein to 150 grams of protein.
He was overweight, so how short would he have to be?
If he was overweight, then a bit more.
80 kilos. For someone in those circumstances, because a lot of what we've said has been for people who get to the gym and they want to mainly gain muscle and lose fat, so they might think automatically, oh, that's not what I want to do, I just want to lose weight. But what they don't realise a lot of the time is they pretty much want to be doing the same thing. They want to be gaining some muscle and losing some body fat, which work together really well.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially for a beginner.
Yeah, that's right. You want to gain muscle. We're just telling you that now.
Gaining muscle will help you lose fat. If your only goal is to lose fat, you still want to build some muscle because that will help you with losing fat.
Because fat turns into muscle, right?
Yeah, science. You shit out your fat, and the fat that you don't shit out becomes a muscle. All biceps.
Science here. We're joking. It's not.
Tip number 8 is prioritizing compound movements over isolation movements, which we kind of foreshadowed a little bit last podcast. But very, very simple. Do your goddamn compound exercises, please. Please, for me. Compound exercises, I said it last podcast, I'll say it again. Multi-joint exercises involve the movement of multiple joints to move the weight or move your own body. So push-ups, pull-ups, squats, deadlift, pressing movements. All of those fall under the category of compound exercises. And those are the exercises which will you'll be able to lift the most weight on. You'll be able to progress most easily. Remembering, I mentioned it last time, progression is one of the keys to success in just about any goal. Because if you don't progress, you're going to stagnate. So if you're using a weight and suddenly that weight starts to become too easy for you, you're not going to continue building as much muscle, at least, using that weight. You need to slightly increase the weight until it becomes a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. Need an increased stimulus, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Doing so within the confines of your form, which form usually falls under strength as well. If you're not strong enough in your back or your core, your back's going to round.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to be able to lift the most weight, progress quickest. It's going to be the most bang for your buck, essentially, because you're going to be working multiple muscle groups at the same time. Last week I gave the example of the bicep curl compared to the bent over row. How bent over row, you get the benefit of working your biceps as well as your shoulders, your traps, your lats, so on. And it's all in one exercise as opposed to doing isolation exercises where you can't lift quite as much weight. You will get more focused muscular activation, but you won't get as broad, essentially. So don't skip out on isolation exercises completely. Do them to focus on areas maybe you want to bring up, but don't make them the mainstay of your session. Yeah. I would probably suggest doing at least 3, preferably more, compound exercises before you even jump in with your first isolation. That's just kind of a bit of a broad guideline, like most of the things we're saying. But
that's why one of the reasons why we went so quickly up in squats is because we had our squat every session.
We did squats
every session we went to the gym. I think we started off on 3 or 4 days. And we moved up to like 5.
We started with 3 days, and then we did 3 days for ages.
Yeah, and we squatted every day, and that's why both of our squats went up strongest.
Quite a lot, yeah.
But there is some interesting research that I've read that's with the compounds as well. There's just certain muscles that grow better underneath compound exercises purely because the load that you can lift with the compound exercise is so significantly greater than an isolated movement. Apparently with the bench press over a fly, a fly, you can hardly even hit that range of effective hypertrophy over a bench press. Flies compared to a bench press are so... There's no comparison pretty much when it comes to hypertrophy with what I read in the study because of the...
You certainly shouldn't substitute the bench, if possible at least. You shouldn't substitute the bench press with a chest fly. But if you're doing a bench press at the start and you maybe want to do some flies later on in the session, that could be quite a good way of fatiguing your chest. Yeah. Because you can use a light load, you can really focus on squeezing the muscle, which is good for muscular activation, which is something that a lot of beginners aren't very good at. But starting to become good at muscular activation will work with your compound lifts as well. So if you're doing flies and you're feeling the squeeze at the top, you're going to start to feel that when you're doing a bench press as well.
That's right, yeah.
Which is probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest things with one of the biggest and best things with compound exercises for isolation exercises for beginners. Yeah, is that you can work on that. It's very hard to work on activation on a bench press if you're only bench pressing.
That's right.
Whereas if you're doing, especially say a cable fly or something like that, it's very easy to get that activation.
Even now, still, when I do a bench press, the activation is nowhere near the same as a fly or anything that I can really bring my arm over with over my chest.
And a lot of that is the mechanical thing. With a bench press, you're pressing straight out, whereas with a fly, you'll be coming in. Yeah. But you can still work on pushing forwards, and even imagining pulling the biceps in can activate the chest muscle, and that's quite good practice for it.
Oh, that's a very interesting tip. You smashed tip 8, dude. Good job.
Thank you. Tip number 9 is don't demonize specific macronutrients or specific foods. So I'll let you handle this one pretty much.
Mentioned it before, but this pretty much is the fact that labeling foods good or bad isn't, or macronutrients. Macronutrients contribute to energy, and they are protein, fat, carbohydrates, and even alcohol. So demonizing any of those macronutrients in any foods in general is just not going to be good for your mental health around eating. I always say this, when it comes to eating, just don't be weird. With
good advice.
So with good foods and bad foods, avoid using those terms as well. I mean, you can pretty much objectively say one food's worse than another based upon its nutrient content, right?
TVP
you can do that
versus a Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you can say TVP is better,
Excuse
right?
me?
But it's still
that was incorrect.
So you can you can objectively measure these things, yeah. But whether that's actually going to be helpful for people or not is debatable. Especially when it comes to mental health and your mental aspects around eating. So I always like to say sometimes foods and daily foods. So TVP would definitely be like something like a daily food, and your Sour Patch Kids is going to be your sometimes foods. Those foods that you want to indulge in occasionally, to more rarely.
Yeah.
Whereas
so
those foods,
a daily food would be including some of the staples and stuff like that we went over last podcast.
Yeah, that's right. So it links up really well with last podcast with finding your staple. But one of the tips in the last podcast was just finding your staple foods, and they will be the foods that you want to focus on and have those as your daily foods. Daily foods and
building
staple foods,
blocks of your diet.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes
perfect way to put
foods
it.
are the little cements in between that keeps your adherence up.
I love that analogy. Love it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if it's a very thin layer of cement.
Very, very thin.
Don't layer that cement on. Don't make it thick.
You might not even have cement on every brick. It might just be now and then. Just a little. Maybe it's not a good analogy.
That's those days where you just want to give in. Each macronutrient goes through its phase of demonization. I don't think. I mean, protein. Actually, protein. I was about to say protein hasn't, but it has undergone a bit of demonization. Especially actually in the vegan community, like people will say animal protein is bad. I still don't get that. I still need to look into that. I think what they mean is just when you say animal protein, they just pretty much mean animal products. Because the component in animal products that's been linked with chronic disease is pretty much saturated fat. Yeah, it's the main one. That's it's not animal protein. There's nothing special about animal protein. It doesn't have any special composition of amino acids or anything like that. With that theory, you could make a plant food with the same amino acid composition as a steak, and it would give you cancer or whatever. It doesn't make sense.
Would it?
I don't know. So just why
I've got no idea, mate.
which is a weird thing that's touted. So it's like there's and what better example is how fat has been demonized for years, then it changes to carbs, then it changes to fat. Now they're both
flip-flops between.
Yeah, flip-flop between, but now we're just in this absolutely messed up state where both of them are demonized. You can walk into any shop now and you'll have low-carb recipe books and you'll have low-fat recipe books. It's ridiculous.
It's like we're in purgatory. We're just
it's crazy.
Caught between the one's heaven and one's hell, but we don't know which yet.
I'll be fair though. Like I like those. I like having those recipe books on hand. They're good. Except if they don't preface it. I mean, if you just open up the first few pages, and normally they'll let you know if they're a zealot of the low carb or the low fat kind of cult, and call them cults because they always sound like cults. I used to use them as an example there because like a low carb recipe book is going to be really good for someone who works better on fats a bit more.
Yeah.
And a low fat recipe book's going to be really good for people who work on carbs a bit better. Like everyone's got their own obviously individual kind of preferences and what they work better on. I'm definitely not saying those books don't have their use, but there's definitely currently still a war going on between low carb and low fat. So just eat a normal diet and just don't start getting caught up in specific.
Don't get weird about food.
Yeah, that's it. That's the best way to put it. Don't get weird about food. And if you're worried about weight loss, it's overall calorie intake. So it's all the macronutrients combined and the energy that they provide. That's what's going to make you lose weight or gain weight or stay the same. It's not going to be a specific macronutrient, whatever. So, yeah. Myth busted. Oh, no, we don't say that.
Oh, my God. I was about to say it as well.
Tip number 9, don't demonize food. Don't be weird about food. Don't do it.
Don't do alcohol. So tip number 10 is, I would say, just as important as anything we've said on adherence, but only because it's intertwined with adherence quite heavily. And that is the fact that patience is key. Which we went over this a little bit earlier, actually, when we were saying about how taking slightly longer to achieve a goal will make the results more long term.
Yeah.
Compared to if you do, say, a crash diet, you will get results quickly, but they won't be continuous results.
No. Yeah.
So patience is key for just about any aspect of health.
One thing I always explain to my clients in the initial consultation is that you can't expect say if you're talking about weight, you've got weight on the y-axis and then you've got time on the x-axis, as it always is. It's not going to be talking about weight loss here, it's not going to be a linear path down.
Yeah.
It's going to be peaks, valleys,
peaks
and valleys, all the way down.
Hopefully averaging the way down. Yeah.
So you want the goal is to have the overall trend as weight loss. But you might have a client go back to where they were like 2 weeks ago for just a very short amount of time. They might just have had a big weekend or wherever. They might have had like a lot to drink, a lot to eat on the weekend.
And that can be quite discouraging for people.
Huge.
Like, I'm still 90 kilos. I'd expect to be 85 by now.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were 86 the day before. Or something like that.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
They had. That's a bit quite a big example, but
it can happen. It's a completely realistic example too. I mean, you hear it all the time. So it's really patience and having that kind of perspective and enjoying the process. And that, massive
comes back to the adherence thing, which is why I said they're strongly linked. Because
I think the link,
if you do enjoy it, patience isn't really a factor because you're enjoying yourself.
That's it. That's the link.
If you're hating it, you're waiting for it to be over. But then, if you think about it like that, going back to what we just said, once it's over, you'll go back to how you were eating before, which means you'll go back to how you were weighing before, how you were living before, how you were looking before, so on. Yeah. Which is why all these things are so closely linked to one another.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, because most of it's almost. I mean, if you had to kind of summarize all of these tips, it's pretty much mindset. It's pretty much the mindset hack. A lot of it's trying to dig it out of what's been taught through marketing and just false information online. Yeah. A lot of it. But another half is just ignorance. And then there's a few other variables thrown in there. But it's mostly ignorance and just getting the wrong information from people. And so there's a lot of work to be done there and altering someone's mindset to really put them in the right position for them to be achieving their goals. And this is finishing off strong because it's a process that you should be really mindful of and enjoy the journey. If you're really mindful of the process and you're really enjoying it, you'll forget about the destination. And that's almost a good thing. Almost become lost in the moment and really be present in what you're doing. And question yourself, why am I doing this? And what am I working towards as well? Always a good thing to do. Yeah. If you have the patience and you just have that rationality around it, I think it's only naturally going to follow. Your results are going to follow. Wholesome way to finish it off, I think. I'm not sure if
Before we jump into the quick tips.
Please add any more you've got. No,
I think you've summarised that really well, actually, for a change. I reckon that finishes off the main 5 tips. So what we're planning to do now is just go through some very quick tips. So we've just got 6 of these. We're just going to do a few sentences or so on each. So I'm pretty much just going to say it. I'll get Ben to say something, what he thinks about that, and if he's got anything little to add or anything.
Yeah, I've not read all these, so
I'll add what I want to.
Yeah.
So the first one is, first quick tip, get somebody to show you an exercise if you're uncertain of how to do it.
Definitely. Spoke about this last podcast. Ask people at the gym. Don't be afraid to ask people who are at your gym and stuff as well.
Especially if you've seen them train, you think you've seen them do the exercise, especially you're pretty much 100% sure they're doing it right. They might even be able to give you a few good tips.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to invest in a PT as well. PT is a great way to start off your fitness journey.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. Jack's good if you're in Adelaide region.
Thanks, dude.
It's all right.
Quick tip number 2. Stay hydrated while you work out, as well as in your daily life.
Definitely.
Just the quickest summary of it, you'll just feel a lot better.
Yeah. So recommended intake is 8 cups a day, but for someone who's probably doing a bit more physical activity, aim for a bit more. Radically decreases your athletic performance when you're dehydrated and you haven't had enough to drink. So
Also mental aptitude.
that too, yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Affects everything. You are mostly water.
Yeah. Unless you're dehydrated. Then you're only 0% water.
A dry boy is not a good boy. Sorry, Boyle.
Wrinkle boy. Eat your fruit and veg. It's not all about protein.
Do we need to say any more? Eat your fruit and veg.
Eat your fruit and veg.
Incredibly important for pre and post gym, especially for recovery. Your fruit and veg got all those beneficial minerals, vitamins, phytonutrients, antioxidants, everything in there that's packaged. It's going to make you recover, make you healthy in general. It's not all about the protein, because if you focus too much on the protein, then you're going to neglect other factors of your diet. And it's really about health. Fitness and health should be synonymous. It shouldn't be separated industries. So eat your fruit and veg. Don't get diseases, and because you can't make gains when you're dead.
Okay. That's the take-home message.
You can't make gains when you're dead.
I think you've just cured nihilism. All I really have to add is you don't even really need to think too much about, well, like we've already said, you can simplify it, focus mainly on calories and macros. You barely even need to think about micronutrients if you're eating a bunch of veggies, bunch of fruit, and just keeping it nice and varied.
Definitely.
If you do that, you don't even really need to track them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Got no reason to. Yeah.
Quick tip number 4. Did I say we had 6 of these? Why do I have 8?
Hey, we got 8 quick tips coming at you.
8 quick tips coming up now. Put that at the start. Work on your core strength, especially isometric exercises like planks, Pallof press, and so on. And that will decrease your risk of injury, specifically lower back injury, which is one of the ones that most people seem to encounter at some point and most people are worried about.
And going back to doing your compounds and prioritising your compounds, you will get significant core strength through those, but I think it's always good to still incorporate some solo core movements. And
one of the biggest things with core strength and why I'm recommending isometrics is because isometrics will especially come into play when you're doing a compound lift. If you're doing a deadlift, it doesn't matter how many crunches you can do. It matters if you can keep your torso rigid. And that's what say a plank will get you, is the ability to keep your torso rigid while there's pressure on.
Definitely.
Get plenty of sleep. Yep,
you want to get definitely minimum 7 hours of sleep a night, especially if you are training quite heavily. If you're, it should really scale up with how much you train. If you're training every day, then you're going to definitely need more sleep. But if you're training 3 days a week, minimum 7. If you get in for 8, you'll be fine.
So the recommendation for most people is a range of between 7 to 9 hours. And that, like Ben said, it depends how much you're exercising. It's how much, not just physical activity, but mental activity as well.
That's a good point.
Tend to feel exhausted if you've had a busy thinking day. Maybe busy work day.
You don't have many of those.
Stuff. I have those every day, bro. That's why I'm about to go to bed. You'll probably be up for a bit because you don't need as much. But, other than that, it depends on the person. A good thing to do is try go to sleep at 10. Don't go on the computer or use any electronics for at least an hour before that, and see what time you wake up. If you wake up at 6, then your body's probably telling you you need 8 hours. If you wake up at 6, you still feel tired, maybe have another half hour. You might need 8.5 hours. You'll surprise yourself with how much sleep your body actually needs to function as well as it could. Most supplements aren't as good as people claim they are, shockingly.
Oh, just say it. Most supplements are garbage. Most of on the shelf, like I could even go high as like 95% of supplements that are out there are just trash.
Don't believe the marketing.
Yeah, it's literally the worst marketed industry, I think, because it's so dishonest. They can take.
You could argue that that's good marketing, though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you could. Bad for the people. Good for the companies.
Good for the company. They make millions, but
really, there's really the holy trinity. You've got protein, does great studies. It's a really convenient way to add protein in without raising calories too much. You've got caffeine, so this is the main component of pre-workouts, even though most pre-workouts are a bit trash and a bit dodgy, a lot of caffeine. I just usually recommend black coffee to people. Or even just whatever, white coffee if that's the thing. Doesn't really matter. If you get caffeine in before a session at the gym, that can actually help you, although it's probably not the best to form a dependence on it, because then your performance is just scaled up relative. It's not really done much of a difference. Do it if you got a big session coming up, big training session. Yeah. It's good to definitely just
don't do it every time. Maybe once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Before you train, that might be decent.
Right. There's some good evidence for fat loss while training, and then yet again, it might not be the compound itself. It might just be that the fact that you can do more at the gym. It's still a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
Number 3 is creatine, and creatine is just good across the board. There are side effects, but most people don't have them, or they're just not very significant. They include like nausea, bloating, water retention. I don't have any of those problems, luckily.
And if you do, you don't really have to take it. It's not a massive...
Oh, no.
It's not a massive effect, but it can help if...
I say it because it's just a super safe, cheap, and effective supplement. It's really as simple as that. And so if you're hitting safe, cheap, and effective, what else do you really need to go for? There are more supplements, obviously. Like there's some fairly good research behind citrulline malate, some fairly good research behind beta-alanine.
Yeah, those were 2 I was actually about to ask about.
Yeah, some good research behind leucine.
We'll probably do a whole podcast on supplements at some point, I reckon.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, and I'd like to do some standalone videos on them as well, because it's pretty interesting. But yeah, really those 3, they're just...
The holy trinity of supplements, those 3.
Yeah, with fitness-based.
The swolly trinity. Oh God, that's a t-shirt.
That's good. But you've obviously got vitamin and mineral supplements that I'm kind of not really speaking about there, because I'm just speaking about more of the fitness-related ones. You can definitely get on some vitamin and mineral supplements as well, depending on the gaps in your diet and all the rest.
The last quick tip we're going to say is to know when to take a rest day. So this is something that you see, not just beginners actually, but everyone struggle with at times, and it's essentially knowing when you need to recover and knowing when you're still able and should probably train. So let's say you're doing 3 days per week. That's a fairly basic beginner workout. And you still feel kind of sore in your legs on the next training day. Try and go a little bit easier on the legs, probably still go. If you're, same example, but this time you're feeling sore your entire body and you can barely move, probably don't grind out that one.
No, yeah.
If you're feeling sick, maybe, you've got headache, cold, so on, I would probably say it's up to your own self-evaluation. Go if you feel able to. If it's not severe, especially. If you just got a bit of a sniffle, you're probably safe to go. If you feel like every time you take a step, your entire head's throbbing, probably not the best thing to do deadlifts on that day.
Yeah, that's right.
If you feel sick in the stomach, I probably wouldn't recommend going.
Yeah.
Because you might induce vomiting or something like that. It's never advised. But mainly it's know when you're feeling too fatigued to train and when you should let yourself have that extra day of recovery, because that's what a lot of people struggle with.
Attached to that is always leave your ego at the door of the gym, your pride at the door of the gym. You should leave it out of your life, really. But really, if you leave your ego at the door, there's no reason why you can't walk out of that gym halfway through the session because you're not feeling too well or you're too sore. Like, really don't think that you need to grind through the rest of the session if you're not feeling up for it. You can always walk out of the gym. That's really good, because I always have that. If I go and I've got a cold and then halfway through I'm like, my nose is dripping or whatever, I'll be like, I've got to finish off a training session. Just go home.
A good tip is you should leave the gym feeling, not necessarily physically, but mentally better than you did when you went in. when you went in. Sorry, my throat went there.
Yeah.
So if you're leaving and you're like, God, that was a mistake, I feel terrible. That's not been a worthwhile session. If you leave the gym and you're like, oh, I'm glad I went today, actually. I feel pretty good. Then you've made the right decision.
99.9999% of the time. The hardest part of getting there is getting to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hardest part about gymming is walking through the front door.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that wraps you up. That's the quick tips wrapped up. That's all of the tips that we've got. We've got no AMAs. We've had the quick tips in place of them today. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found some value out of it. There's been a lot there, I reckon.
If you did, let us know.
Yeah, get some discussion in the comments, please.
5-star iTunes reviews.
You've always got to say it.
Always got to say it. You know, people might not give us 5-star reviews.
But please do it. Get involved in the conversation. Make sure you stay tuned for our AMA posts on our social media pages so you can get your AMAs in here. Anyone can do it, and we'll answer all of them until we get famous. So please make sure you stay tuned in for the future podcasts, and thank you for watching again.
Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.